The war in Ukraine has been continuing for several years. At this point, many people may have forgotten that it's even happening, but it is very much an active war zone. Today, I speak with my friend Jeff Breezy. Jeff,
James,
thank you so much for coming in to talk to me.
my pleasure.
Jeff and I met while in the Montana National Guard, and he just got back from 4 months in the Ukraine, fighting on the front lines. Let's talk to him about his experience. So I'll just get right into it, man.
Sure.
Why go?
Well, basically, first of all, I got a background there because my ex-wife, who's a nurse down in Texas, living the American dream. She's from Kharkov, Ukraine. And I first went over, I met her in August 1999. And we got a daughter who's half Ukrainian. And like when I was married for 15 years, I probably went over there about 8 or 10 times. And then after we split, I went back over to visit, kind of dated a little bit. I've been through, Kharkov's way on the east. I've probably been to in like cities of Kyiv, Odessa, Zaporizhia, down on the Azov Sea, Berdyansk, which is now under the Russian control. So I knew the place, and then I spoke a little Russian. Not much Ukrainian, because she comes from a Russian-speaking area next to Russia, so I spoke Russian. And also, just like the same motivation when I joined the Marines at 18. I fight for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's like when I see other countries and people being oppressed, I want to be with the good guys and go stop the evil. And that was the biggest motivation that I went over there. And all the guys in my class, so I was in it's called the International Legion for the Defense of Ukraine. It's an arm of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. We just call it ILDU. So requirements, everybody's got to speak English. Of course, everybody's got to go through a background checks, no felons. They want people with military experience. So in my class, we had guys from almost every European country. 2 guys from Taiwan, 1 guy from Malaysia. Then we got another detachment of Sri Lankans who came later with us. We had a big class, 48. But, I kind of hung out with all the European and English-speaking guys. Sri Lankans didn't speak much English. But it was the same motivation. It's like, why did you guys come here? And it's like everything from, I just can't stand bullies, to I saw evil and I wanted to do something about it. I want to put a stop to it. And nobody said anything about money. It's like in the combat zone, it's $3,200 a month. Like back in the rear, it's $1,000 a month, like going through training. So it wasn't about money. Nobody mentioned they came there for money. It was all about wanting to help the people.
So you talked about having, obviously you have a Army background, Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And sounds like a lot of the people there. What kind of training was provided by the Ukrainian military?
So we went to Central City, near the village Starichi. It's around Lviv area. In fact, it was on the news in March 2022. It's when they got training base got hit with all the missiles. I think 36 people got killed. I know where that building's at. It's got all the marks still on it. So we went through, I'd say it's similar to BOLC, Basic Officer Leadership Course, if you're familiar with that. It was like a month long, and the instructors are awesome. They base it off FM 7-8, mostly a little bit of input from the Marine Corps, SOI, School of Infantry, British Army. But yeah, international instructors that had been downrange there, and then had other backgrounds from their countries. Some Americans had U.S. military guys, been in Afghanistan, Iraq, guys are former British Army over there, and Spanish Special Forces, and what else? Yeah, about like an Australian Special Forces, and a lot of infantry training. Ruck marching, actions on contact, CQB, patrolling, and a lot of trench assault, because that's a big thing over there, is fighting in the trench. So we even did live fire, a lot of live fire, shooting I had an AK-47 issued to me. And then we had the same kind of gear as we got in the U.S. Had a Kevlar, had SAPI plates, plate carrier, water canteen, or some magazines when we got out to the range. So I carried just an old AK. Shot the RPK machine gun. Everything was kind of like Russian, Soviet-based. Shot the RK, familiarization, RPK, PKM, RPG. Everyone went through that. So, yeah, mount training, room clearing. We did that with paintballs. But it was really fun. It was really good training, excellent instructors. I was really surprised how good it was.
Did you have any personnel over there who didn't have a military background going into it?
Yes. I
So
was surprised. We had a couple guys. My good buddy Raptor, this kid from Malaysia, spoke perfect English. He was a police officer, never been in the military. He was one guy, but he cut on pretty good. Who else over there? Oh, California. This guy, he's from California. Tall guy, about 33. He was a construction worker, just liked to shoot guns a lot. I was surprised how he got in there. And that's about it. Those two. Oh, New York. New York's this guy that he'd been downrange before over there. He served in 2022 like 4 months with a Ukrainian unit, so he'd been in firefights. But before that, he was a dog catcher in Brooklyn. He worked for Animal Control, and that was it. So,
what would you say is the status over there right now? You know, on the U.S. side, we hear a lot about the Russians pushing into the country, and then now it sounds like they're being repelled a little bit. What did you see is actually happening there?
yeah, when I left December 28th, we had it pretty good. We were out in the city of Sloviansk. It took us 2 hours to get out to the zero line, which is out in the woods east of there. And we were in our sector. There was it was mostly conscript and mobilized guys. Most of them didn't want to be there. We had a lot of surrenders, a lot of give-ups. And 3 days out there in the point, 3 days back at our apartment in Sloviansk. We shared with 3 other guys. And then we're down in a bunker, a really nice bunker we had set up with a generator. We had heat, we had electricity, we had internet, and our tactical radios. But every once in a while, I'd be waiting around, standby. We'd be we train about 4 hours a day out there. But other than that, we'd be waiting on standby for a battalion to call down for a fire mission. And we'd just go out and pop off a few 82 millimeters. And it weren't accurate because that equipment is like old Soviet stuff that is worn out. But that was enough to scare these guys back. They would assemble for an assault. It looked like assembling for an assault. We're probably setting up an OP. So we were 750 meters behind the guys in the front line of the zero line. Those are the infantry guys. It's like, hey, you know, somebody's setting up an OP, you want to hit them with some mortars. And then most of the time it scared them back. They really didn't want to fight too much. They relied on artillery. So we were sitting down. It was probably just 2 to 4 hours a day we wouldn't get arty. But it was only landing. Well, we had some close calls, maybe with 100 meters. It would shake the bunker because we had these logs, and you know the dust would fly down. Oh, that was close. But you get used to it. But we were, they didn't really want to aggress too hard, and we had really good defenses, and we're keeping them back. And we had plenty of mortar rounds out there, so we weren't too worried. Other sectors down south in Kupiansk, I was briefly out there with an assault group. They had a little harder, and I had friends down there, and they're fighting a little harder, but they're keeping them back. And actually killing a lot of them. It's like a 7-to-1 kill ratio favoring Ukraine. They send out what we call meat waves, especially because most of the army are these conscripts, the elite forces, VDV, airborne, Spetsnaz. Those guys will be behind them as barriers, and they're using these old Soviet tactics. They practically force the mobilized guys. A lot of times they coerce them. They allow them to get drunk or actually tell them to take drugs. And it would just be a bonsai charge, and we mow them down, we hit them, get them in a kill zone, kill box, hit them with arty, mortars, machine guns. And most of the time it was relying on the heavy machine gun guys, the PKMs, RPKs. Also had saws out there. We had a lot of American-made stuff, M240s, 50 cals, Mark 19 grenade launchers. And yeah, they just tear them to pieces, and then they go scattering back to their lines. That's mostly what it was. So, yeah, they're wasting a lot of troops, but it's mainly the artillery. Their drones, the Ukrainian drones are better. They do have killer drones, but it's mostly they have a lot of artillery because they've been saving up for this for a long time. So they're just dropping a lot of arty. It's not accurate, but they want to do is saturate the area. So it's the artillery that causes the most UAF, Ukrainian Armed Forces casualties.
So you mentioned some of the U.S. Made weaponry there,
Yeah.
some of the tactics, lots of Americans or other Westerners that are fighting there. How does the experience with the Ukrainian Army compare to your experience with the U.S. Army or the Marine Corps?
My first deployment in '91 when I was a 25-year-old Marine Corps Reserve Sergeant, squad leader, I was a truck driver, Seattle Marines. I think one point we could see B-52s lighting it up about 20 miles away at one point. I never participated in combat. 2008-9, when I was a lieutenant with Texas Army National Guard, went over there. We were just doing convoy security ops. We had an IED strike in one of the KBR trucks they're escorting. Nobody was hurt. And all I did was I made out a spot report. Closest I did in combat. And then receiving maybe about 6 times over there, maybe about 4 or 5 rockets that come in at Combat or Tallil. Scattered over 9 months, so it wasn't much. And then here I saw more combat than I've ever seen in those 2 deployments where I was at. I mean, just the amount of artillery receiving, and then the first time that I actually went out and I fired ordnance toward the enemy. So I was like 5 fire missions I was on. So I never did that in the other 2 deployments. And that's the story with a lot of guys. I talked to other vets from Iraq and Afghanistan, and they're like, this is the first time I actually shot at anybody, you know? Mm-hmm. And because over there it's like you call in Apache helicopters, AC Warden 30 gunships, call in fire missions. We had all that great support, which you don't, some Ukrainian, the elite Ukrainian units, Azov, Chosen Company, Carpathian Sich, those guys, yeah, they get the support. Not everybody gets support. We were kind of second tier. We didn't have that support. I mean, our only support, we were our battalion mortars, and we were a hodgepodge with a 482 millimeters and 120. We had no artillery support. They don't have an Air Force really. No helicopter gunship support. No fast movers. We're waiting on the F-16s. So that was it. And so it's like kind of like being in World War I or World War II.
Okay, so a very different experience.
Yeah.
How would you say that the discipline and training vary between the 2 forces?
Well, the mortar crew I was with, we had me and another guy, exact same, my age, Caesar. We're good buddies. Retired British Airborne, 20 years as staff sergeant, spent 9 years in mortars over there. He told me he'd jump out of airplanes with an 81 strapped to him, so he had a lot of experience. And then he was in PMCs, like in Africa, you know, primary military companies. Mm-hmm. He had a lot of experience. The other guys, no experience. Scratch, 19-year-old kid from Brazil. He was a security guard when he got out of high school. So he did one mission with the assault group. He told me how he killed another guy, and it freaked him out, and he goes, he wanted to go to mortars. Same with Dracula, 19-year-old kid from Romania, no experience. Who was Fox? He was in his mid-30s. He was in the Rwanda military a little bit. Who else was there? A couple of Ukrainian kids with no experience. Little and Snake, no experience, early 20s. Let's see, the Belarusian kid, Blissel, no experience. But we had Termit, another Belarusian guy, older guy around his 40s, and Sloan, Ukrainian in his 40s. They had experience, a lot of knowledge, and then the section leader, Starry, Belarusian guy, a lot of knowledge, a lot of emphasis on training. Generally 4 hours a day at the mortar pit. If after lunch, a little break for eating or breakfast, lunch, dinner, it's like train, train, train. Set up the mortar down inside the bunker and go over immediate action drills. All the time. Go over the scope. Under 3 days off, we still had to come in for 2 hours of training. And basically, after a while, it became just rehearsals. So the training was excellent. The guys were into it. The guys were all motivated. It was just like being in the U.S. military with all these guys.
You mentioned being a mortarman.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably don't know what that means. So if you can elaborate a little bit on that, as well as what unit you were in and why you got placed there.
2nd Battalion, International Legion, was C Company, and they had a mortar section. Basically, I told them my background. I said I was field artillery officer, so no arty. I never been on mortars except for down to the 163rd when I was FSO, fire support officer, doing liaison with the mortar guys. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, yeah, you could go mortars. We need somebody experienced over there. So I quickly went there. I dropped a few rounds down to 2. And then Starry says, we're going to make you spotter. I quickly learned spotter. And after that, he says, hey, train a couple of new Ukrainian kids to be spotter. I'm going to use you as the fire direction officer so you had experience. So they had a little kind of, it's kind of like a tablet deal. They call it the crappy VAR. I don't know why they call it that. It's a Ukrainian thing. So it does fire missions. Problem with that was it only went halfway. You had to do the rest of the calculations by pencil and pad, which took a long time. That was my biggest complaint. And especially like when you're in charge of the fire mission, it's like, okay, guys, now I get to the part when you drop one, you got to do a correction, and I'm hand jamming it, and I hope I get it right. There's a lot of pressure.
Absolutely.
So that was like my last fire mission, a couple of my last fire missions. I heard later from some friends over there, go, where's the software engineer for this thing? It needs to do an upgrade. So they did it. So everything, the computer does the whole thing now, which is good. So now you get all the info, what you need for direction and angle and elevation, and shout it out to the spotter.
Gotcha.
Makes it a lot more better.
So you're not having to do trigonometry out there.
Yeah, before it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, all the emphasis on training and rehearsals every day till we got sick. We do some more. It's like 10 times, another 10 times. Go and take a little cigarette and beverage break. Another 10 times, going through another drill. So we had it down pat, and everybody was good. Because you have another section of guys that prepare the mortars, and that takes preparation, putting in that fuse and then putting on the charges and getting them right and getting them set and getting in their position. So it's pretty cool.
So mortars are, an indirect fire tactic.
Yeah.
Same with artillery, which you have a lot of experience with.
Yeah.
Was there any, with your unit, was there any direct combat? Did you have anyone get past those infantry lines?
Oh, here's a cool story.
Okay.
It's like most of the time we stayed underground because the Russians had drones up. We had it well camouflaged. So we had about 10 feet deep. We had a lot of corridors. The guys prepared this thing by hand before we got there. It's like logs, like 3 layers of logs and a big snow pile and tree branches. It's like, you know, if you went out to, we had a tree that was our azimuth of fire that we aim on. It was probably about 25, 30 meters out. If you had to go to that thing, like we turn on the light for night. Well, anyway, if you walked out to it, even during the day, and you look back, it's like, oh my God, I'm lost. Where's the bunker? Because we had that bunker, we had where the ammo was, we had where the generator room was. It was a sprint. You had a double time. The generator to turn it on to turn it off when we needed it on. And a lot of times they'd be raining already nearby. Everything was in danger close, but you know, we're within 600 meters. So one day we were down there and they got a radio call across Battalion Stars. Says we got Spetsnaz in the area, kit up. Kevlar, body armor, grab the AK. We also had an AT-4 and grenades. And so the SOP was, don't open, we had doors at the entrance. Don't open those up because there's drones out that can see us. If they can't see us and they walk by and can't see us, great, we don't want to alert them. If they start coming in, we have to wait till they come in and fight our way out. Fight our way back out to take the position.
Okay.
So we're waiting. And then talk about the pucker factor. That's when your life's starting to go quick through your mind. Anyway, what happened was my good buddy Raider, that's over on QRF, the guy's a legend. He found out where it was only a squad of 10 Spetsnaz, found out where they were going. They set up an ambush and they lit them up, killed most of them, severely wounded the other half. Only 2 prisoners they caught relatively unscathed. When they interrogated them, a private and a sergeant, they spilled the beans. And but yeah, it's like we were saying, the Spetsnaz isn't as Spetsnaz as they think they are, you know. So it wasn't, I remember Rocky III and how they portrayed Spetsnaz in that movie.
Okay.
Nothing, yeah, not like them at all. So he saved the day, and that was pretty cool. So we didn't have to, we got the stand down, you know, it's like, hey, stand down. QRF took care of it out there, but yeah, we heard this story. It was pretty cool.
It's always nice to know that you've got a QRF team
Yeah.
out there watching you.
Yeah.
So this is the last structured question I have, although
Yeah.
you're more than welcome to talk after that. But was it worth it?
I think it was. I made lifelong friends. Like my friend Snake Eyes. Well, he started out with Atheist.
That's this guy here.
Yeah, he's from
Okay.
Italy. He was from around Rome. He wants me to come over and visit. I go, yeah. We're the 2 oldest guys in the class. So we kept everything calm basically. And yeah, he went out to assault on 1 Bravo, 1st Battalion Bravo. He left about the same time I did. Most all the guys left by now and went back to their respective countries. So everybody's back. But just that bond of brothers. You know, I made some lifelong friends. And then also, like, we'd have our weekends off. That was in Lviv. And we go out to Lviv, get a hotel room, we meet up, go to some bars, go to restaurants. People come by and they want to give you a hug, a lot of kisses on the cheek. People are so happy they're in tears. It's like, oh, thank you for coming and helping us. And that made it all worth it, I think. That's the biggest part. People really appreciate us there.
So you think that the international presence in Ukraine is being well received?
Oh, yeah. It's like my first deployment over to Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. I never got that kind of thanks, or in Iraq, you know. But these people really love us, you know. I had people come in, it's like, let me buy you a coffee all the time, you know. And people are really appreciative over there.
Do you think you'll go back?
They want me to come back. They want me to go back, and Starry left. They want to come back take control of Battalion Mortars. I kind of feel like I don't want to be one of those guys who says his luck ran out. I feel really lucky. A couple of guys I worked with used to be on NGOs.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people who supply us. because we got a lot of donations. The generators, the lights, the food, the tools we had were all driven in with our vehicles. It's from that support group of NGOs. And I knew a couple guys that came from there. They spent months. They enjoyed it. It's not as much pressure, so I might go over and work for those guys. If I go back, I might, you don't have to sign a contract. You say, hey, can I just be here for a month? And it's voluntary. They feed you and they give you a place to stay. And they go, that sounds like fun. I might just go do that. But I don't think I'm going to go back to the AFU. I think I'm a little long in the tooth at my age. I just turned 58. And yeah, I think I'm done with that. But yeah, probably as an NGO.
How long was your contract?
Well, basically, the contract when you sign for 3 years, but because the law says you're from a foreign country, you can break contract at any time. But if you want to stay, that's the max. But some guys, well, some of my friends left before we got out to the line. They only went through the training, and then they left. Or one guy went out it only took him a week. And when we went, I was the 1st Battalion, and I was going to be in an assault team. But the way that was mismanaged, they had a reputation, this company, for doing suicide missions. So we all about 7 of us broke contract, came back to Lviv. A bunch of those guys decided to leave. And me and a few other friends, that's when we waited around for 3 weeks to get a new contract. You sign a contract individually with the battalion. That's when I signed with 2nd.
Okay.
It's kind of
Like
decentralized.
It's almost like being recruited for a sports team or something?
Yeah, you got in the ILDU, there's some, I guess, Ukrainian general that runs it, but you got 4 battalions, 4th Battalion's training. 3rd Battalion is a maneuver. 2nd Battalion maneuver, 1st Battalion maneuver. They're out on the line. But you sign an individual contract with each one. If you break a contract, you're kind of still in. So whatever reason, say, I don't like it here, I don't like leadership, I got a problem with somebody here. You can break contract. You can go back to Central City, Staricci, and then wait around. It might be a couple of days. It might be 2 weeks. We waited 2 weeks before another battalion wants to pick you up and have you sign a contract. So, but during those 2 weeks, actually, you don't get paid.
Just hanging out?
Yeah, you're just hanging out. They'll feed you, put you in a tent. But you still, when the air raid alarm comes on, and that's another thing, those Shahed drones, they hit us. You got to run out to the bunker in the forest.
Those are the Iranian drones?
Yes, we got hit with those. We got hit with those, I think it was Halloween. We had about another week left before we graduated. And so it's like midnight that night. So we got the alarm. So it was on the north side of the camp. You run out to the woods and there's no bunkers. Where the instructors were on the south side of the camp, you run out the woods. They got some good bunkers out there. So we just run out on this road, cross the bridge into the woods, and you hang out on the road. And nothing was happening that night. And then you can get an app. It tells you. It gives you the alarm, and you can look at the map of Ukraine when it's all red. So we're out there for about 3 hours, and it's kind of getting cold. And people are saying, this is BS. There's nothing happening. We're going back to the tent. And so they went back to the tent, a few of them. I said, I'm hanging here. I have a bad feeling. Hey, guys, I would hang here. So as soon as they got to the tent, about half an hour later, about 3 in the morning, after being out there 3 hours, they started coming in. You could hear them. One landed, and so when we heard it, one landed at the theater and blew it up. We saw that. We were within about 300 to 400 meters of the whole thing. We ran back down in the woods and got behind trees, and then the closest one was behind the coffee shop. There's an admin building, administrative building. It got hit. And another one came up beside it where they're constructing another building. You just bored a big hole in the ground. But the admin building caught fire. It burned for a couple hours for the fire department got out there. So we were there until about 6 in the morning. And we still went back, and the instructor says, you guys can sleep till 9. That's it. We got to go out there and do a live fire range. So
just another day.
Yeah. But nobody got hurt. No one got hurt. It was amazing. So,
That's good.
yeah. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Best thing is the friends I made. And everybody, a lot of guys, especially when I talk to American vets, and a lot of these guys they're not, they're never big war heroes. I talked to guys who were in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they did what they call the 4 for 4. 4 years to make E4, and that's it. And a lot of them felt like I wasn't satisfied with what I wanted in my career. I felt like I needed to, or especially Afghanistan guys, because Afghanistan felt like I gave my heart and soul and we lost. I wanted, a lot of it why they went over is just to feel like it did something important and I can walk away and be proud to say, hey, we won or we made an accomplishment. That was a big thing. And then with British, Australian, Afghan vets, kind of the same thing. So, but a lot of the guys that don't specifically go to ILDU anymore, a lot of guys that are going to ILDU, some of my friends, they'll put in about a month or two, and when they're doing well and get recommendations from their commander, they'll go over to Azov Battalion or Chosen Company. That was started by a lot of special ops vets, British, like Marine, like special, like Delta Boys, Rangers, Marines, SEALs. They're taking a lot of other guys, but still got the same standards. They got really good equipment, up armored Humvees with Crow systems, and they like to raid. They love to do assaults, or on foot. So you got Chosen. You got what else I mentioned? I mentioned Azov, controversial, but they're accepting a lot of Americans over in Azov. Marines. I got a guy who heard I was a Marine, wanted to recruit me for the Marines. I said, man, I can't do that. Not the way you guys do it. You guys are like Marine Raiders, because they hit with those Zodiac assault boats, and they're down in Kherson, and they're hitting the beach. That's how one of my friends got killed, Ragnar, the big Norwegian kid. He got killed down there. And then there's Carpathian Sich, and those guys are pretty high speed. So a lot of the guys are going over there and making a name for themselves. Two of my friends, former Marine, Picasso, and then New York right now are on 1st Battalion Mortars, and they say, we're loving it here. We're getting our pay on time. We're hitting the objective. We got good kit, and we're kicking some butt over here. You got to come and join us. So they really want me over there. Something to think about. All the guys left. Yeah, you got the 2 Americans, Picasso, New York's left over there. The skinny German guy, Chaco, he's still there. Ash, there was one guy, Ash, this guy's pretty cool. He was like 29. When he was 19, he was there the winter of 2013 to 14 down in the Maidan Square in Kyiv. And he showed videos of it. He's one of those guys who was getting pinned down by the special Berkut police, and when they're getting sniped at, his friends were falling around him. And yeah, he's full of a lot of hate. And he's from Kharkov. Grew up speaking, or Kharkiv in Ukraine. He grew up speaking Russian, but he's he's got Israeli and British citizenship. That's why he came back with us, couldn't go over to AFU. But he had no other military experience except for being a Maidan protester. But I hear he's out there doing great things. That guy's, he's ready to fight to the death. He's on point. He wants to assault. He's out there. Oh, and then there's Montana. There's another guy from Montana. His code name's Montana.
Anyone, well, without doxing anyone that we might know?
Maybe.
Okay.
He was in Montana Guard about 20 years ago. Okay. He's like in his early 40s, he's contractor. I'll say, well, yeah, out near Bozeman, Livingston. The guy, he was motivated, dedicated. Boy, he was a hard charger. He's really good in training. He became a team leader. I think first Bravo. they were down there. You probably heard of Avdiivka. There's a big fight in Avdiivka. He led an assault, and I heard that he was just blazing away, throwing grenades and wiping out positions. And he didn't get a direct hit from an RPG, but it went off near him. And I heard some stuff that he would be all right. He might go back out the line. And I heard lately that wasn't the deal. He was hit pretty hard, and he's in a hospital somewhere in Ukraine, learning how to walk again. So he got hit pretty hard. He might be coming back.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. But he's an awesome dude. I don't know how to contact him. I've been trying to get a hold of him. But yeah, almost all my other buddies, my biggest friends that I hung out with, Gypsy, British. He served in Iraq. He was in Iraq probably, well, about the same time I was, 2009 and 10. He was a truck driver, British Army. Former, well, a guy only spent a couple years in Dutch Army, Taxi. He's back. Swede never served the Swedish Army, but he went over in 2002 and spent 4 months with a Ukrainian unit. He'd been on a lot of assaults, so he'd been in firefights. He's back home in Sweden. So those are the three guys I hung out with. And then Raptor, I call him a little kid. He's 21, skinny little guy from Malaysia. Speaks perfect English, but he usually speaks, he's Chinese. He's back home along with Pan. Pan was spent 4 years, Taiwanese Marines. He's back home. Yeah, so all those guys are back home, safe. On the mortar team, I think Caesar's still out there. Staria went home, that's why they want me to come back. And Scratch went back. Dracula went back. Fox, the Rwandan. He says he needs the money really bad. He's going to stay there. I think maybe he's one guy that was motivated for the money. But Shibu, the German, with his pit bull, he brought out a pit bull all the way from Germany, insisted. So he was in the hospital. I bet the guy once, he broke his hand. And somehow they decided, well, just go stay in the hospital. He's useless around here with a broken hand. I remember I had to take care of his dog. It's like, okay, who's up for feeding, watering Shibu's dog, or taking him for a walk? But who else is there out of there? Yeah, the Ukrainian guys are going to be there for the long haul. The Belarusian volunteers, same thing. They can't go back home with Lukashenko. So basically, I think they're probably going to become Ukrainian citizens. We have a lot of guys coming from Central and South America, lots, more than anybody else. Brazil. There's a whole company of Brazilians. I met a lot of Colombians. It was the biggest contingent. Peruvians, Chileans, Mexicans, Argentinians, and Spanish. So that was called the Spanish Legion. If you only speak Spanish, you just want to go speak Spanish, go to Spanish Legion. And the Colombians are taking a big hit, from what I hear. They're losing a lot of people. They're out there doing a lot of assaults. But $3,200 a month for them is pretty good, plus the promise of 1 year of service, you get citizenship. And so they're invited to go back, when the war is over, pick up their families, go to Ukraine, become a citizen, help rebuild the country, and so bring in some diversity, which I think that's the plan with Zelensky, kind of making it more like, maybe like Germany, especially because like out east, you hear that everybody's ethnic Russian. Well, everybody's kind of ethnic Russian, Ukrainian, but generally Russian speakers. And their loyalty's been to Russia, but a lot of those people left. A lot of people left to the western part. If they're pro-Ukraine, pro-Russians went back to Russia. They call it the Donetsk People's Republic, or Donetsk Lugansk Republic. Mm-hmm. It's a big joke. They call it the Donetsk Women's Republic. And Lugansk Women's Republic, because most of the men are dead. There's a lot of widows. Whoever else is coming in are Russian soldiers, just brought in, say, hey, take care of that house, take care of whatever. I think the plan is to actually let a lot of the volunteers, especially that come from other countries who want to become citizens, and that's what's real big with the the Central and South Americans. Let them go, Latino communities over there. Bring in diversity, because it kind of drowns out all that Russian imperialism stuff. If you got a diverse community, it's kind of hard to do that, And then out there, we take it, so. I think it'll be a good thing. Diversity is a good thing. It'll be great for Ukraine. It'll help secure the country from any more, that stuff coming from Russia. So that's kind of cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to add?
That's it. I just say that people out there support Ukraine. They need our help. I think we can do it. I think there's plenty of money to go around. They need ammo right now really bad. That's the biggest thing is they need ammo. They got all the great weapon systems. They just ran out of ammo. They need an ammo resupply. Write your congressman. Tell them just supply them with ammo, whatever we can give. To me, it doesn't have to be the 60 billion. Split it in half. Just give them 30. That's a lot of ammo to buy for a while. So, but yeah, just help with the ammo right now.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, James.
And talking with me, and sharing your stories.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
So.